Welcome to Detroit Table Talk, another vitamin D filled Saturday. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it is sunny outside and it looks beautiful. So, for all your needs, go on out there, enjoy the sun, take the children to the park, take you a walk. Or if you like me, I'm going back home and getting into bed to catch up on some sleep. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm just saying that's what I'm going to do. But listen, we have another great episode on today. I have somebody that's joining me at the table who I highly respect. I've been knowing attorney Rochelle. Ooh, I think my son is 31 and 33. So almost that young. They were their younger babies.
I believe so. When I
I
first
think it was
met
only
you,
one. I only had one. Well, I
I
had
think
two.
so. It
They were
was a while.
babies. They were babies. And I was introduced to her through my best friend Celicia, and she's part of Celicia's D9 organization,
Delta Sigma
Delta
Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Incorporated.
Yes.
And I, as a young lady, um, I probably wasn't too much younger, than them. But as a
Mm.
young lady, I was single, with a baby, trying to make this thing happen. And God just graced me to be around some awesome women that, okay, y'all, I'm sorry. I know I should have turned it off, but I didn't. Um, oh, that's you. Thanks. So God blessed me to be around some awesome women who I was able to watch, growing up and get encouraging words, when I was struggling, trying to be a single mom and trying to go to school. And baby, it's hard out here, okay? Raising kids on your own, and maybe there's not a stable dad or father in the picture, or as stable as you would have hoped. So I honestly thank every last one of, you and your line sisters for being great examples. Sometimes you
Thank
don't
you.
know who's watching you,
Yeah.
and that gave me the encourage to keep going and keep
Yes.
going. Because I was like, oh, I'm going to be like them one day. When I was ready to go back to school, and then they was like, yeah, you can do it. I was like, yeah, I
keep
think so.
keep moving forward. Yes.
And now I am at a point where I am in my doctoral program, my
Wow.
last class. Well, I
Wow.
finished the program. I'm just writing my dissertation
That
now.
is so
So I'm in my
awesome.
last class of writing a
Congratulations.
dissertation. It's hard.
Yes.
And every day.
Woo.
But I look at all the beautiful Black women that are around me that are doing their thing. So
Mhm.
that gives me the courage to continue on when I keep looking at my chair like, say one more thing crazy and I'm out. But that ain't gonna hurt nobody but me. And I done finished the program too.
You already
I might
there.
as
You
well
at the
finish
finish
writing that
line.
paper. I'm at the 11th hour, probably 11th and a half hour, but I'm getting there. But I have attorney Rochelle Lester at the table with me. We're going to be talking about parental rights. In the last month or two, I've had so many men and women reach out to me about custody issues. I've even had grandparents reach out to me about custody issues and their parental rights. I mean, their grandparent rights and then their parental rights. Like, how can I get more time with my children? She's being petty. He doesn't, and it goes on both sides. So we're going to talk about that. But right before we get into the conversation, I want to reach out to my community. We had a guest some months back, Trey Cheney. He was part of BMF. He was part of The Wire and so many other programs. Well, recently in Atlanta, they had a tornado hit down and his house was flattened completely. Him and his child was in the house. When they found him face down in the mud with bricks and everything on top of his head. His son was thrown 300 feet from the house. So his baby is still in ICU. If you go to my page, I would love for you guys to contribute whatever it is that you can. It's nothing like having a family that you're responsible for. You know, you and your family and your son watch your house being built from the ground up, and one day it's just destroyed and it lays flat. They have lost completely every single thing. So they have to start from ground zero. So if you get a chance, $5, $10, you know, at the end of the day, we are in this together and we are our brother's keeper. So if you can do anything, please contribute, because if this was you, I mean, we just have to face it. If this was you, and that may not be you, but it may be something else, you will want your brothers and sisters to jump in and contribute. Now, y'all jump in and contribute to some crazy stuff. I ain't even gonna lie. I'm just saying. So, you know, he's on the screen. You guys remember the interview. Please help him and his wife out. They're doing the best they can. And can you imagine, the wife pulled up and she collapsed from seeing the house and her husband, her baby injured. So they're all now having to deal with the trauma of losing everything. So I really wanted to say from Detroit Table Talk, Mr. and Mrs. Cheney, we are praying for you and we are holding you guys up in prayer. And know that, you know, God is going to give you double for your trouble, because he know your heart and he know that you are one of his children who continues to uplift the community and give back to the community. So we appreciate you and we're going to stand behind you. But on another note, we are making some changes here at Detroit Table Talk. Okay, I'm making some changes at Detroit Table Talk, and I'm just pulling you guys in. So for the summer months, we will be having coffee time. So once a month, we will meet up at a different African American coffee shop, and we'll have coffee, tea, whatever you drink, cappuccino, and we'll just have conversations. So our first one is June the 21st, and we're going to be over on James Cousin. Drop by 1 to 3. We're going to have just open dialogue. Come out. You're going to meet new people. Bring your friends. Let's share business ideas. Let's, you know, just network. So that's going to be once a month. And then starting this Monday, this is what I'm pulling you guys into as well. Detroit Table Talk. Rico, does that include you? Detroit Table Talk. I put Rico on the spot. I didn't ask him beforehand. He looking at me like, yeah, okay. Mondays and Tuesdays, we are going meatless Mondays and Tuesdays. We're going to allow our bodies to reset. We're going to, well, you could do whatever you want. During these 2 days, I'm going to be doing the Daniel fast. That kind of will help you know the parameter to stay in when it comes to meatless Mondays. Fresh fruits and vegetables, that's it. For Mondays and Tuesdays, you can do it. Our bodies need to reset. We put so much meat and red meat. I don't really eat too much red meat, but red meat, and it slows us down. A lot of us, not me included, but I'm just saying corporately, a lot of us are dealing with a lot of health issues, and it stems from what we are putting in our body. So for June the 2nd, let's continue to move forward. Mondays and Tuesdays are meatless days. So you can get you some stir fry, do some pasta, do some rice, or just eat some vegetables and salads. If you need ideas, I did put a link on the flyer. So go to www.ultimate Daniel Fast recipes, and it'll give you some recipes and tips so that this journey can be a little easy for you. But anywho, we're here to talk about parental rights. Attorney, give us a little bit of information about yourself.
Yes, ma'am. My name again is Rochelle Lester. I graduated from law school in 1997 from Wayne State Law School. And I started working for the prosecutor's office for a short period of time before I worked for UAW Legal Services. I was at UAW Legal Services for 15 years. And that's when I started handling family law cases. And I started the law office of Rochelle Lester, PLLC, in November of 2013. And I've been in private practice since then, mainly specializing in family law, probate, estate planning, and real estate. I do other things too, but those are my primary areas of focus. I'm also a real estate broker, and I've opened Legacy Indeed Realty LLC.
Wow.
So I'm also a real estate agent and real estate broker. So that's what I'm doing.
And she's a woman of faith.
Yes, I'm a woman of God. I love the Lord. I'm a youth leader at my church, Embassy Covenant Church International.
Mm-hmm. I've been
And
there, and it's a really good church. What did you guys move to?
we moved to Walled
Waterford?
Lake,
Oh, Wall Lake.
195 Ladd Road.
Okay. Wall Lake. I don't know why we want to say Waterford. Okay, Wall Lake. Excellent pastors.
Yes.
If it wasn't so far, Jesus, before I joined the church I'm at now. But I can't even say that because now I'm driving to Ypsilanti.
Yeah. And
So-
Walled Lake is much closer. And
Right.
we have a theme that says, a church alive is worth the drive. So
Ooh,
come on.
did they just start that when they moved?
When we moved, yes.
Okay. Because I told God when y'all moved, I said, Lord, I ain't driving that far. I said, I need 5 minutes. I'm going 5 minutes from the house. I said, so you got to show me a church. And I caught myself going to Return a Favor. I had a pastor on here. We were talking about church hurt. And he came to the table, and I was like, oh, now I got to go visit his church. You know what I'm saying? To support him.
Yeah.
No, I really felt that thing.
Yes.
Like, God, I said, he said he in Ypsilanti. I said, I'm going to drive.
Yes.
I drove, and I didn't know that the day that I came, it was Pastor Appreciation Day.
Oh.
And he was so surprised to see me.
Mm-hmm.
And I went out there, and, they do the whole welcome for the first-time visitors. And I was like, Jesus, I ain't even into that kind of stuff. I just want to sit in the back, come in, and leave out.
Tip out at the end.
And I'm just saying this jokingly, guys. I said, them jokers called me through the week. They was like, will we see you at church? And I was like, no, you will not.
She was like, take me off the list.
Right. She was like, oh. I said, yeah, no, I just came by to, show some appreciation to the pastor. I said, I didn't even realize it was Pastor Appreciation Day. I said, but God told me to get up and go. I said, so no, I won't be back. Well, next Sunday came, and I was in my bed on Bedside Baptist. I had the TV on, and God was like, get up and go to church. I said, well, I don't have a church. I said, so I'm watching church on this TV right here on the wall. This is what I said to God. And he said, get up and go to church. I said, where am I going? With an attitude. I said, where am I going? And he was like, go back to Ypsilanti. I said, do you know how much gas I'm going to be? I did that for 3 weeks. Me and God went back and forth. And I just decided, okay, let me keep going. And I think a year into me going, grudgingly, God say, this your church? I said, no, it ain't. Ooh. No, it ain't, sir. Ooh. I said, can you imagine me driving out here in the winter? I told God that. He said, can you imagine you going where I tell you to go?
Hello.
And I said, well, okay, Jesus. And I said, okay, well, just show me a sign of this where I'm supposed to be. And one day I was driving out there, and somebody said, where are you going? And I was like, I don't even know the address. I just know how to get there. Why is the address the first 3 numbers of my telephone number? See. I said, Lord, don't play with me.
Right. It's like, okay.
So, anywho,
I get it.
I'm at Ypsilanti Community Church. So I drive after I told God I wasn't driving nowhere. Ain't that something? We tell God what we ain't going to do.
Right.
And then he tell us, oh, watch and see what you going to do.
Exactly. No, Lord.
So I am extremely happy where I'm at. I love the ministry. I love the pastor. I love the direction that he's taken the ministry and want to take the ministry in. So coming out of not being in church for some years, because I got tired of y'all niggas, I ain't even gonna lie, in the church. I was done. I didn't want to prophesy no more. I didn't want to do no deliverance. I didn't want to lay hands. I don't want to be an armor bearer. All y'all was on my list. Like, I don't want to have no dealings with y'all. That's why God was like, yeah, it's time for you to
It's
go back.
time. Yeah.
He said,
He was like, "You've had
he
I've
said, you
had enough."
tripping.
Right.
He said, you had enough time out.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that he took me to a word church.
Yes.
And it's challenging,
Yes.
you know.
Mhm.
I was telling God last Sunday when I left in the car, I was just driving and talking. I said, man, when the word challenge you to want to be better and do better,
Mhm.
I said, you're in the right spot.
That's right.
So, anywho, and y'all know my audience, y'all know I'm real. I'm just gonna say what's real. But anywho,
Yeah.
what made you want to go in family law?
It was assigned to me at UAW Legal Services.
Oh,
It wasn't like I volunteered for it. In fact, I wanted to stay away from family law because I heard so many horror stories and I didn't want to be involved in the drama
okay.
initially. But after, when you're working for a company, you have to do the
Oh.
cases they give you. You
Oh, I
can't
didn't know
pick
that.
and choose what you want to practice. So I got a stack of files pushed my way, and I was like, okay, let me start. And I had to do it.
And they were mostly law for family law.
Well, I initially was doing what I'm doing now: family, probate, estate planning, real
Okay.
estate. I did some bankruptcy, collection. I was doing a whole lot of things.
And you just
But
started loving family law?
Family law has just been coming to me. Just like you said, you
Okay.
get calls. If I wanted to stop doing family law,
We wouldn't let you.
they wouldn't let me because I believe family law is one of those areas that affects everyone in some format,
Directly or indirectly.
indirectly or directly. You could be a grandparent.
Yes.
You could be someone who you need guardianship for someone. So it's such a vast area. It affects so many people.
Yes.
And I just want to help the family. So,
and we have a lot of how many cases do you think we have in Michigan that is up under family law?
I've never ever checked, and I don't even want to guess.
It's a lot.
Because it's a lot. I believe it's an overwhelming number because once again, it affects so many people.
Yeah.
And dealing with children, is such a touchy subject and it's a very sensitive topic.
Yeah.
So we have to do what's necessary to protect these children. So I think I really couldn't even guess. I've never even thought about it, but it's got to be millions of cases in family law.
Everybody knows somebody that's going through the court system when it comes to children.
Yes,
most men that we know.
Yes, unfortunately.
Are. Yeah, and I really don't like it, but that's just my opinion. I wish that a lot of families can work stuff out on their own.
Yes.
And not have to go through the system.
Right.
Because once you're in the system, it's crazy.
Yes.
Can you tell us about your experience with parental right cases in Michigan?
Yeah, so I when I first went into family law, this was, probably in the 1998, 99 to early 2000s. Mainly the cases were about women contacting me to go after what we call a deadbeat dad for child support. And a lot of times those were the main cases that I was handling. And then there was a shift. It was mainly in the beginning, fathers were stuck with a parenting time schedule that was every other weekend from Friday to Sunday. Friday at 6 to Sunday at 6. That's all men got. That's all you got as a father, even if you raised your children in the same household for years. You were reduced to every other weekend from Friday to Sunday. But I've seen a shift since then. In more recent times now, I'm seeing fathers who are saying, no, I do not want to be a every other weekend dad.
Yeah.
I do not want to be a Disney dad.
Yeah.
If she is seeing the child, I want to see my child just as much as the mom. I'm just as much of a father as she is a mother, and I want more parenting time than just every other weekend.
Yeah.
That's not going to establish a good relationship with my child. I'm not going to be the fun dad. I want to be there sitting at the table, doing their homework, feeding them, giving them breakfast in the morning, driving them to school. I want to be involved actively in my child's life.
Yeah.
And I
And
tell,
not just a person that you call when you need money or the kid
yes,
needs something. That could be disheartening.
exactly. And
Yeah.
it's so sad because so many men were reduced to that in the beginning. Unfortunately, it was because there were a lot of deadbeat dads. So the system looked at it as if all men were that way,
Yeah.
that all men dropped the ball. But now fathers are stepping up. They're saying, I want to be actively involved. And I'm seeing now that I'm representing fathers who are asking the court for equal parenting time,
Mhm.
for just as much parenting time as the mothers. So it's various types of cases that come my way. I get grandparents who want visitation for their grandchildren, mothers who may want to modify the parenting time schedule because there's a change in their life,
Yeah.
or the dad, there's a change in his life. So it's a lot of cases that can come my way.
What are the basic legal rights that parents have in Michigan?
So in parental rights is a constitutional right that every parent has. It's a basic parental right. It's a basic constitutional right in the United States. Meaning, if you have a child, that child, you are entitled to every right as a parent to be able to handle your child.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the ideal situation, of course, is for both parents to be in the home with the children without the court's involvement, without third parties telling them when they can and cannot see their children, how much they should pay for their child. That's the ideal situation. It's only when the parents are not able to get along, they break up, and that the parents are now living in separate households, that we have to get the courts involved, that we have to get third parties involved to now make the decisions on what are the parents' rights. And generally, the courts always award joint legal custody. Joint legal custody means that both parents have the rights to make all of the decisions, the major decisions about their child's life,
Mhm.
educational decisions, medical, extracurricular activities, religious activities, where the child will go to school, where they will live, those basic decisions, both parents have the right to make that decision once they come to court and the court orders joint legal custody.
Now, do they usually have to go through some kind of mediation so that way when they get in front of the judge, they've already handled out some of the details of the custody?
Depending on the county, yes. Most judges cannot handle the number of cases that come their way. So
Wow.
the system is set up that for most counties, you will first speak to a friend of the court referee
Okay.
concerning the issues of custody, parenting time, child support first, to see if you all can come to an agreement, and also to see if the friend of the court can give a recommendation to the judge. And all judges, before, if there's an initial case, all judges require the parties to participate in mediation, whether it's through free mediation services or a trained professional mediator who's normally either a retired judge or an
Mhm.
attorney. That person is a neutral person. They don't make any decisions. They hear what mom wants, they hear what dad wants, and they try to get the parties to come to an agreement somewhere in the middle,
Okay.
because judges would never sleep if they were required to handle every single case that came across their docket without some type of intervention. And truthfully, the courts would rather mom and dad sit together at a table or in a Zoom meeting themselves and figure out what's best for their child. And that's the ideal situation. Most people say, I want my day in court. I want to see the judge. I want the judge to hear and make the decision. And a lot of times I say, you really
You
don't,
don't. Mm-mm.
because you may think the judge thinks like you do,
Mhm.
The judge may think completely different from how you think and how the mom thinks. And now you're stuck with a decision until that child is 18 with something you don't like and the mom doesn't like. However, if you all come together, each of you may be able to get something that you're looking for, and at least you have an agreement. And if you have this agreement, you may be able to work with it better than if someone says, no, you're going to have this time and you're going to have that time and you're going to do this. It's best if the parents who birth these children to make those major decisions themselves.
How does Michigan define parent in the context of custody and visitation?
Well, a parent is basically the biological parent of the child, not a step parent. Step parents, of course, don't have parental rights. It's a biological parent relationship.
So if I was married and we got a divorce, even though he was in the house for however how many years, he doesn't have rights after he leaves the situation?
Yes, he does, because he's the parent. Are you saying a step parent?
Yeah, step parent.
Yes, the step parent does not have rights to your child unless they actually adopt them. So a parent is someone who birthed the child or adopted the particular child. And in Michigan and most states, if a child was conceived and born during the marriage, the husband is presumed to be the father, even if he's not the biological father. He's considered the legal father.
So if she cheats, get pregnant while she's cheating, that man is legally named as the father,
Absolutely. Even though he had nothing to do with it,
oh,
and may not even realize that he's not the father. And I've had more cases come up like this more recently, and it causes for a complicated divorce case, because in order to overcome that presumption, sometimes we may have to do a DNA test. And sometimes the mother has to raise her right hand in court, swear to tell the truth, and say under oath, yes, I had an affair with another man outside of my marriage. No, my husband is not the father. That's humiliating, embarrassing, but it's necessary in order to overcome the presumption that the husband is the father.
Can you explain the process for establishing or modifying parental rights in Michigan? So if the court has already put something in place,
Yes.
how do you go about getting those rights modified? So if you want more time and
yes. So in Michigan, if the court has already made a decision about custody, parenting time, and child support, that's it. You can't just come to court and say, oh, I just want more parenting time now. Or, oh, I don't think the other person should have as much parenting time any longer. In Michigan, you have to show two things: either a change in circumstances or proper cause in order to change the parenting time schedule.
what would be a proper cause?
So let's say, for instance, I have an example of this right now. The initial court order was in place and it stated that dad would have reasonable parenting time. We hate that term.
What's reasonable?
Because that's impossible.
Yeah.
There's no specific dates. There's no specific times. Reasonable parenting time, in my opinion, means whenever the mother says you can see.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be when the parties can agree. But if the children are living with the mother, you, dad, reasonable parenting time to you, father, means whenever the mother will allow you to see your children. So that's not the ideal situation.
That's crazy.
But dad doesn't have a place to stay. He's living with someone.
Yeah.
He doesn't have beds for the children, So we'd say that until he gets his own place. So a change in circumstance would be if dad now has his own house.
Okay.
He's got 3 bedrooms. He's got beds for the children. He can pick them up, take them to school. That's a change in circumstance. Now we can go back to court and say, Your Honor, we initially said reasonable parenting time. There's a change. He now wants to have a specific schedule, which every parent should have a specific schedule with the days of the week and the times of when parenting time starts and ends and all of the details. So now he can see his children on a regular basis.
Whoa. Whoa. And it's kind of in my mindset, it's like, why is that even a factor when it comes to, oh, you must have, if you have two children, you must have these many bedrooms and times is hard. What
Yes.
happened to just children being safe under a
Yeah.
roof where love is? I mean, we used to,
Unfortunately,
when I was younger, we didn't have bedrooms. We used to sleep on the
we used to
floor
sleep on pallets.
and
Remember that?
pallets.
Yes. When
They
you
didn't
go over
care
your
about,
grandmother's house or your aunt's house and make a pallet on the floor,
and we used to be just
just
fine.
as comfortable.
So
But
why is that now?
I hate to say it, but if we don't put a standard out there,
Okay.
these kids would be on a basement floor with rats running over them
Oh,
and no because certain basements don't have the escape room,
yeah.
the egress window,
Mhm.
and these children would be in homes that are not fit. I
Yeah.
had one dad, I was representing mom, and the dad lived in a house that he was fixing up to flip.
Mhm.
So the house didn't have electricity, water,
Oh,
and all of that, but he wanted to convince people, yeah, my daughter can spend the night. And he's thinking if I have overnight visits with my daughter, I won't have to pay as much in child support. But
okay.
no, no, sir. We can't have that child over there sleeping in those conditions. So we have to have some standards. The child has to have their own bed. They don't necessarily have to have their own bedroom,
Okay.
but they have to be able to sleep in their own bed and make sure they have all of those necessities.
Okay. But he couldn't say, I'm getting a hotel room when I get her where we
Mm,
can.
that one can be tricky because some hotels don't have a kitchen, and
Okay.
you know, it's not suitable if you're
Okay.
talking about maybe an overnight visit of some sort. But if you're talking about on a consistent basis,
Yeah.
we don't want a child to think that stability means living in a hotel room with no kitchen and you know
Man,
yes,
the system is hard.
they're
What-
pushing for the dads to step up and
yeah,
to make things suitable for
and some
children
mothers.
and the mothers as well.
Because we got a
Yes.
lot of fathers now that are stepping up and saying, hey, bring me my kids. Because
Yes.
your lifestyle is not conducive to my children being raised right.
And that's something else I'm seeing now. We used to always talk about deadbeat dads.
Mhm.
I'm seeing a lot of mothers who are slipping and they don't have the stable homes that these children need. And the dads
Yeah.
do. Or the dad may be the one who is stable.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of students that be like, oh, I live with my daddy or I live with grandma.
Yes.
Where's your mom? Oh, she's in jail. And they say it like it's just so
Yes.
like common.
Right.
Like one little kid walked up to me the other day and she said, um, I'm sad. I said, why you sad? I said, cheer up. She said, because my mom had to go to the hospital yesterday. I said, oh, is she sick? She said, no, she's on drugs.
Oh.
She said, but she's doing better. She called and told us she's doing better. She said, so we're staying with my grandmother until she can get herself together. So I just took her and hugged her. I said, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
She said, okay. And you know, the look in her eyes, I was like, hold it together, Carmen.
Yes, yes.
Because some of
She's
the
concerned.
mm-hmm.
She's probably very worried about what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Man, what is the difference between legal custody and physical custody?
Yes. So legal custody means who's going to make the major decisions about the child's life, their education, religion, where they're going to live, extracurricular activities, medical decisions. Those decisions are considered legal custody decisions. And physical custody means who is the child going to live with? Is the child going to primarily live with the mother, primarily live with the father, or a combination and have joint physical
So somebody
custody?
can have physical custody, but they don't have legal custody?
Normally, the standard in Michigan is for both parents to have joint legal custody. And then physical custody could either be with mom, dad, or both. But the term physical custody now really doesn't mean as much. It's not as important as the parenting time schedule.
Okay.
Because some people may call joint physical custody, but it's not even equal parenting time. So what's most important is the parenting time schedule that says the children will be with mom on such and such a days. The children will be with dad on whatever days. That's the most important part versus saying who has physical custody, mom, dad, or both.
I saw a case and I actually thought about it when my first grandson was born. But I saw a case on social media a couple of days ago, and the mom allowed the father to have the baby
Mhm.
overnight. And the baby couldn't be but a month old. And he refused to give the baby back.
Oh,
And he said he's not giving the baby back because at that moment, no parental custody had been put in place.
right.
So he felt like he had just as much um, cause to
Yeah.
have the baby as mom. So he was like, yeah, I'm not giving her back until we go to court and the court decides who has custody. Is that something that is allowed in Michigan?
That's it's
Or
a
was it
very tricky thing
kidnapping?
because there's no court order that says who has custody, mom or dad. It also depends on if the parties signed what's called an affidavit of parentage. That's a document that's signed by both mom and dad, where
Mhm.
both parents acknowledge that he is the father of the
Okay.
child. And I believe on that form, it says until a court order says differently, the default is that the mom would have physical custody. I believe that's on that affidavit of
Now, where do they get
parentage.
that
Normally,
application?
after the child is born,
Mhm. The hospital
the
give it to them?
hospital will ask if they want to sign that. And then if they do, that the father's name will go on the birth
Why is it a
certificate.
default that the mom assumes, you
So
know?
there in Wayne County, there was a study that was done on children,
Mhm.
and what they determined is was that children 3 years old and younger
Mhm.
have, because they're in a developmental stage, mentally, emotionally, physically, in order for them to mature and develop properly, they need more attention and affection from their mothers. And I believe that's been the underlying reason why there's a default for the mother because of some studies that were
Mhm.
done about how a child develops as a child, as a baby, all the way up until age 3.
I think they have something now in the hospital. They didn't have it when I was, giving birth. And so I'm up there. Uh, but they have now where the bonding time, like if mom and dad is there, they make dad take off his shirt and lay the baby on him so
Okay.
that the dad and the baby can connect.
Yes.
Why is it that they're introducing that,
Mhm.
but they still have the default that mom?
Probably it's up until age 3. So
Woo.
that might be right in the during the birth, right after the birth.
Mhm.
But this particular study was done that
Do you remember the year?
I don't remember the year of the study. All I know is Wayne County's default schedule has a schedule for dads, and when they're 3 years and younger,
Mhm.
dad will have a limited time with the child based on the study that was done.
I want to insert a question before I go to the next question. When was the last time the computer system or program was updated? Because what my son was in something a couple of weeks ago. He has zero balance on his child support orders and stuff
Okay.
like that. He did have a warrant out for his arrest from, I think, many, many years ago when the baby was small. They put a child support order in place, um, and he just that by default agreed to it.
Okay.
So he never showed up in court because
Um,
they had a mutual understanding.
okay.
Well, this is what they said,
Oh,
that they had a warrant out for his arrest for not complying with the court,
okay.
meaning not showing up to
Yes.
talk to the judge. But his his balance was zero. So they put a warrant out because they said he owed child support. And we was like, no, he don't owe no child support. Um, so Troy, they made us give them some money. And it's like, but those numbers are not right. And then maybe like 2 weeks later, He went down to the child support office to make sure everything was straight, and they never cleared everything. So they
Oh,
kept him down there. He was like, "Mama, they arrested me for child support." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So I guess the person who steps in, I don't know what they call them. But she allowed me to fax over, stuff from the system or whatever. And then I was able to get somebody on the phone where she can talk directly to them.
yes.
And she was like, "I just don't understand, I don't know. It's been over a month. It should have already posted and stuff like that." So my question is, you have men out there that are being falsely locked up
Mhm.
for balances of child support that they don't have, or it's not a number that's significant because
Yeah.
the counties don't connect.
Communicate.
And she was saying something that I'd never heard of, that if Oakland County collects money, they don't send it to Wayne County.
I'm not. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't
And
know
that's what the
the
lady
internal.
that's what the lady was saying, that's I guess the prosecutor for child support. She said none of this makes sense. So she's fussing at people in the back, and my son, like, he when he first got down there, he said, "Mama, they was treating me bad because they thought I owed child support." He said the officer was talking to me any kind of way, but then when they finally got it taken care of, he was like, the officer was trying to be all nice. He said, "No." He said, "Because you just assumed that I was a deadbeat dad."
Mhm.
So I'm just wondering, how quick does payments post, and
It.
how quick do they relieve people if they may have had a bench warrant or something like that?
I really don't know the internal workings of the court. They're not always efficient. I know that certain counties will tell you that they're understaffed,
Yeah.
and sometimes if I file something with the court, they'll send an automatic email response that says, "Please be patient. We're 6 to 8 weeks behind
Woo!
in processing papers."
Woo!
So, and basically, they're saying, "Don't call us, don't
We'll call
bug
you.
us, and ask how long is it going to take."
Wow.
So I have to tell my clients, be patient with the process. It may take 6 to 8 weeks for things to catch up in the system.
Meanwhile, they may not be able to see their child, or if they have a run-in with the police because they haven't had their day in court or the system hasn't been updated,
Right.
now they're caught between, as the old people used to say, the rock and a hard place.
Yes. And that's why, if at all possible, I know it's inconvenient, it's not even practical.
Yeah.
But try to keep your paperwork. If you
Yep.
have an order saying you've been released from a bench warrant, or your balance is zero, keep something with you or in your phone, or save it in your phone
That's
or
what I just told my
something.
son the other day. I said, "Did you ever take a picture of that paper they gave you that said your bench warrant is erased and you have zero balance?" He said, "Oh." I said, "Take a picture right now
Yes.
and send me a picture so I
Yeah.
can have it just in case." Because
Yes.
everybody, they don't always work for you guys, and I hate
Exactly.
that.
Right.
Our men be so confused.
I know.
Some of them give up
They shouldn't.
because the fight is just.
It's
It
rough.
seemed like the court is against them.
Right. And I tell my dads, please be patient with the process.
Mhm.
And if you're willing to fight for your child,
Please fight.
I'm willing to fight with you.
Yes.
And you do have to be patient. I have some men, they start off with this whole reasonable parenting time or no parenting time at all.
Ooh.
And I just tell them, please be patient with this process. And a lot of them, I'm able to get them the parenting time schedule that they want.
Okay.
It may take months. It may have even taken a few years. But isn't
Wow.
it worth it? Isn't If there's going to be some kind of legal fight, isn't it worth it when you're talking about your child and your relationship with your child?
I think it's worth it, but I think it's unfortunate because that's time apart from them having time with their children
I
and
agree.
also being able to bond. And then
Yes.
it's time where some women are just petty.
Right.
So they're poisoning that child's mind
Yes.
in the midst of that father not being able to be active. And they may be even speaking stuff that's not true. Like, your
Exactly.
dad don't care about you. That's why he's not coming around. Meanwhile, he's trying to be patient and he's trying to
Yes.
work with the system.
Right.
I just hate that. I hate that.
Yeah. And we
And
as
I'm a
women,
woman, but I,
have to stop
yeah,
doing that.
yeah,
And men have to stop it as well.
yeah.
Don't say anything negative about the other parent
Mhm.
to the child.
Yep.
You may be thinking you're hurting this other parent, but it's the child is thinking, I'm half of this
Yep.
person, so you
Yep.
talking about me.
Yep. Yep.
So
Oh, that's good.
it's damaging.
How does Michigan prioritize the best interests of the child when making custody decisions?
So there are, I think it's 12 factors that the court looks at when they
Woo.
talk about this best interest. What's in the best interest of the child? There are several factors they look at. They look at whether the parent shows love and affection for the child, whether they have the disposition to show
What does that mean?
love and affection, because some people may not have it within them to show love and affection for
So
a
they
child
mean like
because of
giving
their
hugs
distance.
and stuff like that?
Yes, or they may not show that to their other children, or
Okay.
but that's the second factor.
Okay.
They look at whether there's a family unit for the other parent. In other words, does that parent have family connections, extended family, other children?
Mhm.
They look at the environment that that parent is in. Is that a stable environment? Do they provide a stable environment for the child? They look at the education of the child in that parent's home. They also take into account domestic violence,
Mhm.
especially if it's been done in front of the child.
Mhm.
They look at that parent's moral fitness. That's another factor. Meaning, does this parent have a criminal record? Do they have a history of abuse or neglect of other children? Moral fitness. And then, are there any physical or mental health issues that the parent may have that affects their ability to parent?
Now, who scores all this?
The front of the court referee and judge.
Okay.
They take this into account. And as an attorney, I argue that my client, it is favored in with these factors. And I have to be
Okay.
able to explain how my client relates with each of these factors.
Okay. So
And
what does that mean? The for the sake of the conversation. So does that mean the father has to come with evidence that
both parents have to have evidence that addresses these factors.
okay.
And some of the factors, there may not be an issue. Say, for
Okay.
instance, domestic violence. If there's never been domestic violence, you're not going to have any evidence.
Okay.
The other one is the willingness of the parent to allow the other parent to have a relationship with the child. So as we were discussing, if a parent is making negative statements about the parent or saying you can't see your parent and holding back that relationship, that affects their ability to have parenting time.
Have you seen judges where they sit and they listen to the information that's being given to them and they notice the attitude of the woman and how negative it can be while they're in court? Have a
Yes.
judge ever had to redirect her like, hey?
Yes, it goes both ways. So one thing about court, we as attorneys can present whatever evidence we want.
Mhm.
Videos, pictures, audio messages, report cards, police reports, whatever it is, whatever evidence we may think we want to present.
Okay.
But the judge has something that we have no control over. And that is the judge looks at this person's credibility.
Mhm.
Are they being consistent in their testimony? Are they doing things that show that they're lying, not telling the truth? Or does the court really believe what the evidence is showing on
Mhm.
paper?
Mhm.
So the judge, sometimes can make a decision based on credibility.
Okay.
And, sometimes judges are in a good position because they can be the one to tell the mother, stop withholding parenting time from dad.
Mhm.
Or telling the dad, I've heard judges tell the dad, you've got to step up.
Yeah.
You can't just put everything on mom and make her do all of the work.
So if a mom holds parental, custody or rights to the child, is she sanctioned?
Sanctioned? If she, so let's say this.
Or is it just a slap on the hand? Don't do that no more.
It
Don't do that no
depends.
more.
The first time it's a slap on the hands. Let's say there's a parenting time schedule. Let's say dad is supposed to have Friday to Sunday,
Mhm.
every other weekend. If mom doesn't allow it the first time, the court is going to tell her you have to, comply. And dad can then make up the time that was lost.
Okay.
If it happens again, there may be a little more of a penalty. She may have to pay attorney's fees and costs or sanctions, as you mentioned.
Okay.
There was one case, it wasn't mine, but this was back when everybody was physically in court, and the mother is testifying, and I heard her say, well, this time, little Susie had a cold, and I didn't want her going over there so I could doctor her up. And
he couldn't do that?
Exactly. And that's what the judge had to say. He
Yeah.
couldn't do that. If she's going over there, he has to have his household set up to care for her just like you can.
Yeah.
And this must have happened multiple times. It wasn't the first time it happened. So the judge ran through the first time you said this, this, and this, and that was the reason why.
Oh, wow.
The second time you came here, you said da, 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 da. And each time the judge is talking, I'm looking at the court officers in the back, inching closer and closer to the front. By the time the judge got done, they put the mom in handcuffs.
Whoa.
And the judge said, I'm ordering you to jail time every weekend. I can't even remember how many weekends it was.
That he has right to see his child?
That the mom was going to be in jail for the weekends right after work for those weekends. And dad
held back.
Yes. And dad would have the child during that time. That was the ultimate penalty.
Whoa. Women, y'all better stop that foolishness. Y'all better stop that foolishness. What are the common reasons a parent rights might be terminated?
So once again, it's a constitutional right for parents to have rights to their child in parenting time. It's only when there's abuse or neglect that those rights can be taken away. And that's when Child Protective Services can get involved and the police can get involved. If Child Protective Services substantiates allegations of abuse or neglect, or if there are charges brought, against the parent for child abuse or child neglect, that's when their rights can be suspended and or terminated. And if you're in a situation like that, normally the courts will give you an opportunity to have your children back. They'll give you a whole list of things you have to do. You may have to take parenting classes, anger management classes, drug or alcohol counseling or therapy or a number of things, but you have to follow whatever the court says to a T.
And that's why I step in as a child advocate for the foster care system.
Yes.
I have to write a report to the judge saying, hey, mom has complied or mom is not complying. Mom has yet to find somewhere stable. Mom does not answer my calls.
Yes.
Mom avoids me at all costs.
Yes.
And that's harmful. So
that's hard.
It's hard. I have a case now where it's like, I think mom is just giving up. Mom just said, I think I'm going to turn my rights over. I said, hey, wait a minute. Hold on. What can we do to assist you? Now, hold on.
Exactly.
Listen, let's figure this out together. So,
and once again, your child is worth it.
Yes.
Don't put your child in the system. You don't want to be a part of the court system. And I'm an officer of the court in the sense that I'm an attorney. But you do not want these courts involved in your house and telling you whether you can or cannot see your child.
Yeah.
You have to get it together.
Now, once the parental rights is terminated, is it permanent or at some point they can be reinstated?
If it's terminated, it's terminated. That
ain't no
means
going back.
You are not the father, you are not the mother any longer. Of course, any decision can be appealed with the Court of Appeals, but it's a final decision. And if it's terminated, that means it's over. And that also means someone else can adopt your child and become the legal mother or father. If your rights, and if both parents' rights are terminated, someone else can adopt.
So even though, say for instance, mom may get her rights terminated, they have to see if dad wants to step up.
They're supposed to go to the other parent first, because of course there's a
Okay.
list of priority.
Before the termination is even
No,
considered.
not before it's considered, but after it's considered, after
Okay.
termination,
Let's
then
see
it's
who can
determined
step up.
who's going to take care of this child. And they normally try to figure that out before the rights are terminated,
Mhm.
so they can make sure the child has a place.
Some of y'all daddies don't answer the phone. I'm just gonna be honest now. I've had numerous cases, and I have yet to talk to a daddy.
And I tell
That's
people,
not nice.
I tell people in a situation like this, because I don't normally answer my
Jeez.
phone when I don't recognize the call.
Mhm.
But if you're caught up in a legal battle like this, you do need to answer your phone
Yeah.
and clear your voicemail or listen to your
Yes.
voicemails, because it could be a guardian ad litem, a child advocate,
Yep.
a social worker trying to reach you.
Yep.
And you
I
have
try
to
to follow up with a
cooperate.
text to say, "Hey, this is a CASA worker calling. You know, can you answer the phone or can you return my call?"
Yes.
Yet to get a call back. But anywho,
Aw.
do the biological parents have any legal right if they're not the legal custodians anymore?
If their rights have been terminated, if
Okay.
their rights are terminated,
It's
it's like
terminated.
you're not even the parent any longer. You don't have any rights.
Man,
So that you never want to get to that point. You need to fight, 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 and do whatever you can, because you never want to be at the point that your rights are terminated.
what advice can you give to fathers and or mothers who feel like, listen, I'm tired of playing this game with the other parent.
Mhm.
I want to see my child. I want to be involved in my child's life. And I don't want to have to jump through hoops to satisfy this other person to be a good parent, you know, to my child.
Yeah. If the person is not letting you see your child, you do have the right to have visitation with your child. As long as there's no evidence of abuse or neglect,
Mhm.
you can petition the court and ask for a parenting time schedule, and the court will address the issues of custody, parenting time, and child support. Now, I do have to tell my dads, if a dad is trying to get in his child's life, this is the process, this is the procedure. Please be patient with the process. But even though we're going to be asking the court to give you a schedule when you can see your child, and maybe you want to see your child 50% of the time and you want it to be 50-50 parenting time, the issue of child support is automatically going to come up. So you have to
Yeah.
be prepared. There may be an order in place for you to pay child support as
Mhm.
well, but you have the right to have a parenting time schedule in place that's court ordered, which means if mom violates it, there will be consequences. She could be held in contempt of court if she fails to cooperate with that court order. And you have the right to go into the court and ask for a schedule. And it's best to have an attorney there who knows the lingo, who knows how to prepare the papers, who knows the workings of the court system, and who's not emotionally involved.
Yeah.
A lot of times we may want to handle it ourselves, but you're too emotionally charged to think rationally. You're not, and you don't know what the law says. So
Mhm.
it's best to have an attorney to represent you.
Now, the parent who has the legal right, when they enroll the child in school, what if dad say, you know what, I'm not dealing with her. I'm just going to go up to the school and see my kid when she's not around?
Well, the joint legal custody is what the court normally orders, which means both parents have to agree on whatever school the child is going to go to. Now, I'm not sure in that situation if you're saying dad has no parenting time at all.
No, he does, but he rather, well, I have a couple of kids throughout the year where mom has come to the school and say, I don't want dad picking them up. I don't want dad, you know, bringing them lunch. I don't want dad to be involved. He ain't paying no child support. He don't take care of the kid.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, if we don't have documentation from a court saying these things can't happen, I think it's unfair for a school to put those kind of things in the system,
Right.
you know.
So I tell dads, if we have a court order that says he has joint legal custody, and if it says he has parenting time,
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z, I tell my dads, and a lot of times I do it for the dad if I know what school the children go to. I send the certified copy of the judgment that
Okay.
says he has joint legal custody.
Okay.
Send it to the school so they can put it on record.
So parent teacher conference,
Yes.
anything that has to do with the kid, they have
Yes.
to also send to him as well.
Exactly. And I tell my dads that school needs to see you. Physically go to the school and
Yeah.
let them lay eyes on you.
Yeah.
Get your name on all of the emails,
Mhm.
the whatever school apps they use. Make sure all of those notifications come directly to you. Don't leave it up to the mother, because some dads will say, well, she didn't tell me they had a school break. She didn't tell me that it was a
Mhm.
half day.
Mhm.
And I'm saying, no, you need to know your child's school
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah.
You need to get those notifications if it's a snow day. You need to be just as involved as
Let me
she.
tell you what sometimes, well, all the time. If I'm calling a parent because of the behavior of a child, I always call dad first. And sometimes mom gets so mad. Why didn't you call me? Why did you call their dad? If I'm dealing with a young man, I call dad.
Yeah.
And I tell mom all the time, he's not listening to you anymore.
Yeah.
He's not responding to you yelling. And I need some results now.
Yes.
It's either that or you're gonna be in this classroom sitting with him, or he gonna be at home with you.
Yes.
So if dad is available, I tell
Yeah.
moms all the time, if dad is available, let
Let
him
him.
come and handle the situation.
Yes.
It the let me see. The response I get when I reach out to a father versus the mother, it is so different. Kids will tell you, these young men will tell you in a minute, call my mother, I don't care. She ain't gonna do nothing. But when you have talked to dad and you
Mhm.
have to call a parent, say, oh, I'm just gonna call your dad.
Mhm.
You can either give me the number,
Yep.
or if I have to go in the system and get the number, we're really gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
No, please don't call my dad. Please don't.
See?
Please don't. Miss
Yeah.
Evans, I'll do whatever you say. Where you want me to sit? So I use that as something that helps me.
Yes.
out.
I agree.
It helps me out. And I have some personal thoughts. I feel that when a boy
Yes.
gets to be about 9 or 10, in my own opinion,
Yeah.
I think that dad should be given custody of the child. Because as a woman, we've put everything we can into a
Mhm.
boy. And they
Yeah.
need that father, to
Mhm.
kind of balance them out. I have 8th graders that just whines all the time. And you could tell he's not around a man a lot.
Oh,
Cries
yeah.
about everything. And it's a lot of our young men.
It's a lot of them.
And it's like, Mom, have you considered
Yes.
letting him live
Yes.
with his daddy?
Right.
I don't know, because and I'd be like, Mama, if it's a child support thing, you want him to be healthy and whole.
That's
You want him
right.
to be productive in this, in society.
Right.
And money is not everything.
No. It's not.
It's either you let him do it now,
Mhm.
or you keep him with you and he get into some trouble, and you're gonna be spending money,
Yeah.
to maneuver these court systems, and it's not cheap.
Right.
I said, so I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just suggesting
Mhm.
that, let dad step
Step
in
up.
when he can.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'd be like, listen, so don't get mad at me.
Right.
I'll call daddy
Mhm.
and mama and them later, after. When I say them, I'm talking about grandma and
Yes,
all
yeah,
them.
auntie and all
You
of
know.
them. And it's something about a man's voice, that bass in his voice will
Mhm.
make a child go, and now they're gonna straighten up. Whereas a
Mhm.
woman, our voices are a little softer,
And
and
we play with them.
yeah,
We play with them. If daddy got to take off work, or if he got to even stop doing what he doing,
doing
whatever he doing, boy, we got a
it's
problem.
gonna be some consequences and repercussions.
I don't even care if he out there hustling. If
Right.
daddy got to stop hustling and come up to that
Whoa.
school, I've seen it.
Mm-mm.
So what are your final thoughts, and what are some resources that we can give the parents, whether it's mom or dad, that will help them in their fight to um, gain custody, or
Yeah.
something like a mediation that they
Yeah.
can possibly, if both sides are willing to come to the table to talk about
Yeah.
the
So
issues?
one thing I think people just need to have um just be able to work with that other parent. Parents are so often not on the same page, and they're always fighting over the smallest things. And I don't think they realize the impact that it may have on their child's life.
Mhm.
Their child may not feel stable, safe, and calm because their parents are constantly at war
Mhm.
with each other, and it causes your child anxiety and other issues. So I think the best thing is for both parents to come to the table willing to work with each other, willing to listen to what the other person has to say, and willing to work with that other parent to come to some kind of resolution concerning parenting time.
Mhm.
There are mediation services that will provide free service for parents who need to have a parenting time schedule, or if there's a dispute concerning parenting time. So, Oakland Mediation Center, which is, I think they're in Pontiac off of Square Lake Road or something,
Is it a 1200?
not all the way up at the courthouse,
Okay.
but Oakland Mediation Center is like off of Square Lake Road and I don't even know the other
Is it called
Telegraph.
is it called mediation?
Oakland Mediation
Oakland Mediation.
Center.
So listen, fellas and women, I'm just saying it might be a valuable thing for you to contact them. That way, when you have to go to court, you can show the judge, listen, I've signed up for mediation. She didn't show. Or the mediation people have called, they sent letters. She didn't show. That works in your favor.
Yes. And that's Oakland County. I'm not sure if that's only for Oakland County
Mhm.
residents.
Mhm.
Wayne County has Wayne Mediation Center that handles mediations, but I don't think theirs is free. I think they charge $100.
I'm sure Wayne's is not free. No.
Well,
they gonna nickel
would
and
be
dime you.
overwhelmed if they said it's free, I think. But so, and then there are probably other organizations that do that as well.
Okay.
But definitely contact an attorney if all else fails, or if the other party is not trying to mediate. Contact an attorney. You can always go before the court.
What is the base? I know you can't give a definite cost, but what is a ballpark of a basic case for parental, support case?
It all depends. I don't know if you're talking about like the very beginning of a case.
Yeah, like to just get an attorney.
Right. Every attorney charges a different retainer fee. And some of them, it only may cover, even if it's a low amount, it may only cover one court hearing. So it all depends. It could be anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000.
And
Some
most
attorneys
attorneys
are willing to work with
Yeah, I
you.
was just about to say that most attorneys now are willing to work with you. They even put you on a plan.
Yes, a
you know.
payment plan.
Mhm.
But you
And the
still have
payments
to
got to
have,
come in on time because, baby, you be in that courtroom by yourself.
and for the most part, you have to have some money up front, even
Yeah.
if you use a debit or a credit card or something to that effect, because even before that first court date, the amount of time that the attorney needs to prepare, to interview you, do a consultation, prepare the paperwork, send subpoenas, whatever needs to be done. You want your attorney to be prepared. So you don't want to give your attorney
Yeah.
nickels and dimes and say, go out there and fight for me. No, you want to equip your attorney with everything they need to be able to fight for you.
Yeah. And then you want your child to know daddy is fighting for you.
Yes.
You
Yes.
you know what I'm saying?
Even if, and I don't want you to lose, but even if you don't get exactly what you want, or if you lose whatever it is, at least you can tell your child, I fought for you. And it didn't work, or whatever happened, or I didn't get
But
what
you're not gonna fail.
No.
You're gonna get, you may not get everything that you want, but you're gonna get something that you want. But the fight is so worth it.
Yes.
I think attorney Lester has said that a couple of times. The fight is worth it.
Yes. We're talking about your greatest asset.
I've heard fathers say more than what I want to hear. When they get 18, they'll come looking for me.
No. If they don't know you,
I'm like, what?
They may go off to college and never turn back, because they may be thinking, you don't care about me. You didn't fight for me. And they may be subconsciously thinking, I'm not worth it. I was not worth it to you. And they may hold that within themselves and think throughout their life they may have this within them. I'm not good enough.
Yeah. I had a question that was posed on Facebook via somebody else's page that the daughter was graduating and they're only giving so many tickets. And dad wanted to come to the graduation. And the daughter was like, absolutely not. Because he's not been around.
Oh,
And I'm giving a ticket to somebody else.
wow.
So she wanted her mom to tell dad. And mom was like, should I tell him or should, I direct her back to speak to dad on his own? And I'm like, mom, stay out of it.
Yeah.
This is a conversation that she has to have with her dad.
Yes.
Or encourage her to just do the right thing.
Yeah.
Do the right thing. I know he ain't been around. I know he ain't did what you thought he should have done. Or maybe, kids are petty. Mm-hmm. Maybe daddy didn't buy that dress that she wanted for the prom.
Right.
Or rent that car.
Exactly.
Kids would be like in a minute, well, he ain't coming to my stuff.
Right.
I've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the punishment. I get to punish you.
Because you didn't do what I wanted you to do. But like I told mom, stay out of it.
Yes.
And encourage her to do the right thing. At the end of the day, that's your dad. Yeah. And that's what I want most women to do. Now, if he's abusive or he's, neglectful, I get it. But for the most part, I want you to encourage the relationship between both of your children.
Yeah.
Encourage that relationship. Don't hinder it.
Right.
And then I always say this. You punishing yourself. Because, baby, I would be out getting my nails done, my hair done.
Yeah.
I'll be hooking up with the girls.
Yes.
I'll be on vacation. Don't punish yourself.
Right. We all need a break.
Get them kids to that man.
Yes.
Pick up the phone and be like, come get them.
Right.
Want me to drop them off? Yeah. You need some food?
Right.
I used to do that with my children's father. I ain't lying to you. I used to be like, oh, you want them? I'll bring them to you.
Yeah.
Or if I call them, people be like, I ain't got no food over here. Oh, problem solved. We're going to stop at the grocery store. What do you want to cook for them while they're over?
Right.
And he would tell me, like, thinking I was, child, me and the boys on the way to the grocery store. Yes. We're going to pick some snacks and some food. They'll be over there within an hour.
Dad said
excuses eliminated.
Dad said y'all having spaghetti tonight.
Okay. So we're going to go and get the spaghetti. We're going to get some cookies, some chips. Maybe y'all can bake some cookies or make a cake together. Yes. I don't care. Right. But I'm about to drop y'all off. And as soon as he opened up that front door, you're going to see my wheels spinning. I ain't lying.
Yes. Give yourself a break.
Give yourself a break.
Yes. And most is, as long as there's no abuse or neglect, everybody has a different parenting style.
Yep. And let him parent how he wants to parent. Yes. You can't control what goes on in his house, just like you make it known that he can't control what goes on in your house. Leave that man alone. Yeah. Let him figure some stuff out.
Right.
Maybe you don't want him to eat candy at your house. That's his house. If he see they can have a Snicker bar, leave them kids alone.
They'll live.
And at the end of the day, I'm joking, but I'm serious. At the end of the day, the mental health of your child is what's most important. You don't realize all the thoughts that children have in the midst of these custody issues.
Yes. Yeah.
Children tends to internalize a lot of stuff because adults are too busy arguing to realize that they're really, being a detriment to their mental state.
Yeah.
So, for your mental status, theirs, and his, y'all work it out. Okay. Father's Day is coming up.
Yes.
And I love these kind of shows before Father's Day because I encourage you. Let them kids go spend some time with their daddy. Okay? If they have not seen their daddy in weeks or months or even years, let them pick up the phone and call their daddy. That's their daddy.
That's it.
Yep. You ain't got to be involved in a relationship. You might say, I don't want to see that brother. But y'all say other stuff. Then don't.
Right.
Drop the kids off at your mama and them house, grandma's, or if you got a good friend that you can drop them off, wait at the end of the block. Let him pick them up and go on about your business. You ain't got to be involved
Mm-mm.
at all.
No.
I thank you for coming to the table.
Yes,
Because our young men
absolutely.
and young ladies need this.
Yes, they do. And they need to know it's worth it. It's worth fighting for your children. And it's best to work things out with that other parent
Yep.
and let go of the pride, let go of the anger and the bitterness and work it out.
Where can they contact you? If y'all have some parental issues.
Yes, you can contact me by email at Attorney Richelle, and Richelle is spelled RICHELLE at gmail.com. And my phone number is 248 915 8990.
There you have it. Now, you have an attorney who's giving you some great advice. She's also giving you her information. You know, some of y'all spend money on shoes and clothes. Y'all got to look good. Spend that money to fight for your kid. And in that way, you can be involved in the process. But don't forget, starting June the 2nd, that's this Monday, we are going meatless. Mondays and Tuesday, we are eating no meat, just fruits and vegetables. And then June, what date is that? The 21st, we're going to have our first coffee time. So come on out. Grab your sister, grab your brother, grab your nosy neighbor, and come on out. We're going to have some fun. We're just going to drink some coffee and talk and you know, just come together. Okay? I love you guys, and I will see you back at the table. Am I back at the table next week? I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah, listen, my niece is in town from Africa, and I'm trying to spend time with her because I haven't seen her in some years. So, by her being in the military and you know living in another country, she's finally back on American soil, and she's close to here for the summer because it gets 120 where she lives. So her and the baby is here. So we have play dates. Um, so right now, I'll see you back at the table, June the 7th. Or if not, I'll let you know. Bye.